Bring your houses, we walk down to flush them out.
Welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast, a journey into the depths of men's hearts where courage meets vulnerability and wisdom embraces integrity. In a world that often measures a man by his outer achievements, this podcast dares to explore what truly defines a man of character. We unpack the challenges and triumphs that shape men's lives, bringing to light stories of resilience, compassion, and unshakable faith. We believe that the heart of a man is a treasure trove of untold stories, powerful lessons, and profound wisdom. Through authentic dialogues and insightful discussions, we aim to unlock these treasures, one story at a time. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Rewire, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
Welcome to another Friday evening, and I know you've seen our faces before, little glitches, but we're going to keep it moving because life goes on, and that happens. First and foremost, I'd like to thank these two gentlemen here who show up every week and show up with value added to the community, added to the chat, added to the voice waves that you hear audibly in your ears. And we're just honored to be before you today. I'm honored, and before I get to them asking them how they doing, I'm gonna acknowledge the chat. First and foremost, we'd like to thank you each and every week. You guys show up. You not only show up, you add value to us. You add value. You ask questions. You are deep in thought, and you encourage us to actually think about what we say before we say it. I don't know if you know it, but when you may say some things and it clicks a light bulb on, and we go back and we have conversations about it, like, okay, yeah, I could change this, I could tweak that. I appreciate them actually saying that. So right now, we like to thank those of you who I can see at least in the chat, and Dwayne to add to it if he sees somebody on his timeline. Miss Lisa Keys, we thank you for coming in. His Divine Appointment, Nick D. Who else we got? Miss Charlotte Ann Jordan. I'm scrolling. Hey, good to see you in here, brother. Let's see. Adrian Artist. Always good to have you guys in to where we can know that we aren't talking to ourselves, but we're talking to a community of believers that come in not just to listen, but to add value. And if it's anybody else out there, charge it to what I have on here, because this is all I have. Some people may be on LinkedIn, some may be on X, some people may be on Facebook, one of our Facebook pages. But if I don't see it, charge it to my head, not my heart, because I appreciate you guys, and we all do. Now, brothers, had a good long week. How y'all doing?
It's definitely been a good and long week. But as always, my weeks end with me sitting here talking to my brothers on Friday night, to the livest chat on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever we at, LinkedIn, but we here and we lit, and I love it. I'm just excited to talk with y'all. Y'all know it.
Yeah, man. Likewise, busy week. I wouldn't say long. It was only 5 days. I mean, I'm sorry, 7 days since the last time we talked, but it was fruitful. A lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts. Just got voluntold some information that I thought was rather humorous. I shared with you guys off stage though. But other than that, man, all is well. And like Gaddy said, I always look forward to sharing in conversation with you guys and everybody in the chat. So good to see you.
And you may notice that our brother, Uncle Junior, he's not here. He had obligations where he couldn't make it, but he assured us that his heart is with us. So we're praying for him, and we like to let him know that he is missed. So let's just jump right into it. There we go. How do we live fear-free, free of fear, to where you can go about your daily lives not thinking about what can happen, what will happen, or what might happen? We can say things like, the Lord has not given us the spirit of fear, but of a sound mind and power and all these things. You can say that, yet your conversation leads me to believe that there is some fears that you may not even know. Because reality is that society has exposed us to fear camouflaged under different titles, camouflaged under different names. So we may not call it fear. We may not call it anxiety. We may not call it stress. But when you find yourself in conversation about things that you think may take the control over how you move and what you can and can't do, that's a source of fear. So it may be mislabeled, but I like to call it what it is. So at this time, we gonna talk about tonight. We're looking at 5 steps to transform fear into fuel and rewire courage and live. And those are the things that you may have 10, you may have 15 or 20, but we're gonna talk about 5 here on tonight and see how we can have a discussion. Now, this won't be like the normal talks that we have. We have where someone asks a question, you may have a bunch of answers to the question. This here is going to be an open dialogue. It's going to be something thrown out there, and it's just like a basketball. We're going to throw it out there, and we're going to play ball. Everybody going to get a chance to shoot. Everybody going to get a chance to pass. But at the end of the day, we're going to see where we are as a people, as a community, with this thing that we call fear, with this thing that sometimes cripples us or holds us back or puts us in a state where we can't necessarily see what's next. We can't see the positive because that fear has us crippled to where all we can see is negativity. So as we continue, as we go and bring these brothers back up, first and foremost, we're going to ask the question, and this is not just to the brothers that's on the stage, this is to the chat as well, because we're reading and we're trying to make this an actual dialogue. Because when I got this one, I was like, man, this is something that the whole community needs, not just 2-3 people to inject in what you may think fear is or what you may see as how to get past this, but how do we live fear-free? Not just that, but what are some fears society as a whole have today?
Some fears that society has today. There's a lot. I would say, like in the space of relationships, women are afraid of being taken advantage of, or men are afraid of being used. Some of us are afraid of trying. Afraid. I say this all the time when we talk about fear. One of the things I notice about a lot of people, either in my family or from neighborhoods like where I'm from, some have a fear of succeeding. And it sounds weird. I think some people are afraid of doing better or coming up out of where they are because they're comfortable where they've always been. Growth, being stagnant, and failure is the biggest one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the traditional ones: fear of failure, fear of success, fear of abandonment. All of those different things when it comes on to fear. I don't know. I think just this question here, like you can just continue to go on and on and on. Society add new layers of fear every time. Like right now, there's a very clear and present fear that a lot of people are experiencing right now because of what's happening in, our government system. Just a lack of security, kind of like, yeah, that's it. That's the word I was going to say, but I didn't want to say it. But you put it out there, Trumponomics, yeah. Just lack of security, not necessarily knowing if you're going to have a job next week or things of that nature. So, um, I mean, fear is kind of like a broad topic when it comes down to what society purports. Again, it doesn't really matter. You turn on the news, there's a new layer of fear that they're trying to induce. You look at the Weather Channel these days, and this is clear and present and obvious things that are happening, especially people who live in the Midwest. They are experiencing a level of fear pretty much every day because of inclement weather. So you look at these things, and I can't say that the weather patterns are a society-induced thing, but when I say that society purports, and it can be giving you firsthand awareness before it's actually happening, but just that by itself also induces fear. So fear is a broad topic here.
It's definitely a broad topic, and when I first thought about it, I thought about things like miseducation and systemic racism and things of that nature. But then I was thinking like, okay, those things may affect me, but other people it may not. Other people may not see it from my vantage point. So I wanted to tackle some things like you guys talked about. Trumponomics, or when we talk about everybody wanted what Elon go do next, or what about AI and the control that AI, because we watching these movies, everybody watching TV, and when it comes to the weather, Gaddy, you here in Texas, and every day the wind is blowing something over. Every day it seems like it's gonna be a thunderstorm, a hurricane, or whatever. My mom called me, and when they say, I guess you don't realize how big Texas is. Y'all got tornadoes, and that ain't here. So every time you see something, don't think that is where I am in Texas, because Texas is a big place. But we live in a constant flux when it comes to things, and fear may not be called fear. It may be misrepresented. So when you have social media and news outlets determining what you should and shouldn't be afraid of, that's also one of those things like, hold up, should I be listening to this as factual information when it just because it came from what used to be a reliable source? So those sources may not be reliable anymore. Now that's the fear. And I seen in the chat, I seen gun violence. I saw the Trumponomics, and when it comes to gun violence, those are things that's pushed. Sometimes things can be pushed because of narrative, because they want you to say, "Hey, we need to take the guns off the street. We need to take everybody. You shouldn't have, or us, especially in places like Texas and Florida, where you have a large Hispanic or Latin population. They talk about those people that came over the border crossers. So you have the agents ready and willing to go and, just get people together and place them in cages because they're all criminals, because someone may have said something. So when it comes to fear, I think we need to look at how we move and who we depend on for our information and the source of our strength, and we'll get to that as we go on, I'm sure. Can we go to the first one? We got 5 steps to transform fear into fuel for a brighter future. And while I was looking at it, the first step that I thought about when I looked into this, I thought about self-education and awareness. And when it came to self-education and awareness, I had a definition. Self-education and awareness is knowledge is power. Understanding history, civil rights, financial literacy, and systemic structures helps individuals navigate society with confidence and a proactive mindset. What say you? self-education and awareness.
Yeah, I was reading through it too. Because when you start with knowledge is power, my mind started going back because I got a little bit of nostalgia because we used to hear that all the time growing up. But I look at it when you say self-education, I'm looking at it like I always joke with my brothers, like they're gonna turn me into a bookworm after all, right? And I say it jokingly, but the one thing that I've realized as I have gotten older, I learned a lot more when I read and I study on my own than when I did when I sat in a classroom. A lot of times, sometimes we take certifications and trainings on things that we like or that we do every day. But when I sit in the classroom, I learn the information that I have to regurgitate to get through the course, right? That I have to memorize for the exams or whatever I wrote in the paper and I studied. But the part about the papers that made you smarter was the investigation you do, the studying you do, the research you do, the reading you do in order to gain the information to write the paper. That's what made you smarter. That's what makes research papers so effective. And so I think when it comes to life, we run into things that we may not have learned about in school, but we have resources at our fingers that we can go back and we can look at, we can read, we can get a know about. Just making up words. I know we can get a know about of these things because it's more than just being able to sound smart when I'm talking with my brothers, but it's more about knowing what a thing is and how it affects me and how to move forward. Because some things seem scarier than what it is just because we have a lack of knowledge of the thing. So which brings me to the whole thing when Lisa says knowing what the Father says. Well, one of the things he says is for the lack of knowledge does his people perish. So we have to know a thing.
I agree. However, I think sometimes the knowledge that we take in stimulates fear. I do agree that it is important to learn from history, but I think sometimes some people, of course, not everybody, some people focuses so much on history that the knowledge of history creates a fear in current day and time. So history, civil rights, systemic structures, got it. None of those things I can do anything about. I think it's important to be knowledgeable about those things. But if that becomes the foundational worldview that I have, then everything I see, I am going to either have what is called a learned helplessness, or I am going to be very cynical, thinking that somebody has an. You guys remember that whole saying that this is the man that's trying to keep me down. The man ain't got me personally to think about, to be honest with you. And so I'm not saying anything against what was already said. I'm giving the other side of it as well. So we got to be careful when our constant focus on history and constant focus on civil rights and constant focus on systemic structures. The question is, what history can we create? What rights were given to us by our creator, right? What structures can we create that we stop focusing on those structures that we believe are working against us? So I think if we educate ourselves about the right thing in the right manner, then I'll stop looking at life through the lens of this being restricted or this being by itself unlimited. And then from that perspective, education, now I bypass the concept of lack of knowledge. I think when we hear that, my people perish for lack of knowledge, we think it's all inclusive, but it's not all inclusive. It's knowledge about the right thing. So when we have knowledge about the right thing, that drives the right mindset, which now drives the right behavior. And once that drives the right behavior, now we can literally see change happening.
Okay, I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm glad that you went, because there's always two sides. There's never just one voice, one target. I think that when we talk about, knowledge is power, and when you focus on history and civil rights and those things, you recognize what happened. You don't live there. You have to recognize, okay, this happened then. Now, systemic structure systems, the system still remains. I never want to act like the system changed so much to where it's kumbaya, because I'm realistic, because I see the system at work daily. But I think you should know exactly what the system is for, exactly how it should work, versus me saying, well, the system is against me, so now I develop that victimization, that victim mindset, to where, oh, it's just against me. And I almost get a defeated attitude to where I don't think that I can do anything about it. But when I know about said system, it's like, okay, I see it. So now I can't give an excuse about drugs in the community when I'm a pusher of drugs in the community. I'm using it as an excuse to elevate, well, I had to feed my family. No, that's not the only way you could feed your family, because now you're using it as a scapegoat when it's against you, versus looking at it and say, okay, it's something there. And I know that it says, if I do this, this will happen. All I have to do is not do that. Knowledge of said thing will also allow me to see where I shouldn't go, what I shouldn't do, how I should be. And lining that up with scripture, that tells me how I should conduct myself. I don't care what someone else is doing. Knowledge of scripture actually speaks to knowledge of self. So now I can't give the excuse of I'm this color, I'm that color, or this person was this, that, and the other. No, what it speaks to is me as an individual and how I should move, how I should be, and not be just towards the people that I like, but to everyone. Because it don't say, okay, treat these people bad. But what it speaks to is, hey, no, this is how you conduct yourself. It doesn't matter what someone else does. You do this. And I think when we get that through our heads and say, like, man, I know what happened, and I will never succumb to pressures to become this, but how do I move in a fashion to where it pleases him? And never did it please him. No, you just be docile. And, that's how some people will try to take it. Like, oh, you should just be a good, servant. No, I'm a good servant of him. But when it comes to fighting for rights and awareness, I think that's one of those things that we have to always be looking for, literacy in all things, and not just what elevates us to the point to where we're over someone else.
Yeah, so I'm totally on board, especially when Coach says, and I see someone in the chat kind of said something similar to the aspect of some of the focus on history and the system can create a fear. But then it made me think about a fear that I see a lot of people run into a lot of times when they start seeing the truth about a thing, or they start seeing how things really are. It's that fear of the system not allowing them to operate how they have been comfortable operating because they go against the grain. And I think that is counterproductive when we start talking about community. Because because when we start talking about application, the fear is, if I begin to apply this thing that is different than the thing I have been doing this whole time, it's not going to work with the system the way it's designed. So I have to operate this way, or I got to see it this way. Or if I don't see it this way, then, I got to think liberal because of my skin color. My people going to not accept me. I got to think conservative because of my people or my belief, whatever. Once you find the truth, you adjust. But then, as Coach said, when we start talking about gaining the right knowledge and then learning the application, what get in the right mindset so we know what to do next. Where I always find that problematic as a community is sometimes I don't want to do what you want me to do. I want to do what I want to do. When we look at the system, really, it's okay if you work opposite of the system if we learn how to work together. Right? Like, and we always talk about some of the old stuff. I remember going knocking on the neighbor door asking for a cup of sugar. And then them knocking on our door asking for a cup of flour. Like, if the fear is I'm not going to be able to meet my level of being a millionaire that I want to be because because we have to do things differently because of the system or whatever the case may be. To me, the problem is community. A lot of things I think about, and I know this is a bad example, but just bear with me. I think about the times we were getting ready. You from Detroit, you get ready to go fight. And then part of you like, boy, take your butt in the house before you get your butt whooped, you get jumped or something like that. But then your boys come with you and they ride with you. They ready to ride with you. You get this extra juice of courage. Well, if that's true, how much truer is it that before I go and do a thing that I was told that I couldn't do, if I had my boys behind me? If I had my boys not just cheering me on, but we are all willing to start doing things differently, making money look different, making work look different. Hey, how about we quit our job? We put this money towards this business. Everybody going to be afraid of losing their job. But if y'all with me, I might have more courage. And I'm not saying that that's what we plan on doing up here, but I'm just saying, sometimes the fear comes because we are not thinking about what if we do it together.
But even as I listen to what you just said, even within the lines of what you just said, implied we ain't going to do it together because you just said it's okay if I don't do it the same way, right? And it's not about doing me doing what you think I'm supposed to do. It's just me doing something in general for the community. I think that's the thing where focusing on the system, because we believe that we exist in a space that has finite resources. So because we think resources are finite, it's like, I got to get mines. And you've heard that before. I'm going to get mines. And it's almost like we will shun the community for the sake of getting mines mentality. And then at the end of the day, now that puts me in power. Why? Because the system has literally shown you that that's where power exists. So I really don't I get what you're saying about community. But even within the space of it, I also believe that when I'm saying I'm in a community, but yet I still have a systemic mindset, right? Based upon what we're talking about, that's the evidence that I'm not in a community, because it doesn't matter what the community plans to do. The bottom line thinking that I have says system. And so I will always focus on the good of the system because it will benefit me in my mind, regardless of what direction the community is going in. And I think until we get that mentality and that understanding and root out some of the old things, focus, hypersensitivity on civil rights, hypersensitivity on a history that actually made me and positioned me to be less than, right? Which now that becomes the thing that says, I got to get mine. I got to get mine. I got to get mine. We're in a time like no other. I got to get mine. So until we root that out and replace it with the right thing, then a lot of times what we're going to do is we're going to fight against the thing that is good for us, even though we say that we belong to that thing, but our behavior won't display it.
And I think that leads us, this dialogue leads us into Ms. Verlene's question. Is it a mental thing or is it a mindset? Is there a difference? I'm going to let you scholars tackle that.
Yes. Hey, I had to pull that Dwayne out my pocket for a second. I had to put it on the table. Yes. Is there? Yes. I mean, is it a mental thing? there are things, yeah, it's a mental blocker sometimes to have the system in your forefront before I decide to do a thing. Okay, the system exists. Okay, this was designed for this. Yes, we know the CIA put out documents years ago admitting dumping of crack cocaine in the black neighborhoods. Yes, that happened. That's a mental blocker if that is the focal point of how I move forward. But if I say, in spite of that happening, yes, that happened, but let us move contrary to that. Let us move around that. That, yes, that's a mental thing, but it takes a mindset to get around the mental thing. So I don't know if that makes it the difference, but to me, it walks together.
I don't disagree with you. And I'm laughing when you said yes, because it reminded me of Pulp Fiction when John Travolta took the stage and he leaned into the mic and said, "Is this on?" So yeah, I think, and you guys know how I view anything that has to do with mindset. Mindset is the foundation of what it is that you begin to think. So when I have a mindset that was shaped and molded through the things that were taught and so forth and so on, and then I start seeing certain things, and now there are things that position itself, and I become conditioned to a certain thing, then the mentality that I have moving forward is that I got to work twice as hard and be twice as smart as anybody else. We've heard all of that. I think everybody who's on this panel, on this podcast, listening, regardless of what platform that you're listening to, I think we've heard that. But that mentality came from the foundation that was built based upon all of the historical documentation, and it happens every year, right? It happens every year, the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So now, and I do want to say this, but I don't want to say this. We go through this every 4 years, and the people who I talk to, I'm like, "Hey, how do you know?" They're like, "Wait, what? What do you mean? How do you know? Do you know for certain?" Yes. How do you know? Where did you get the knowledge? Like, what evidence do you have to support your belief in this thing? Well, we've done. Yeah, see, there you go. So now the mindset has been shaped based upon what you've heard in the past, what was taught to you. And because that mindset exists, the mentality now goes to the forefront and it becomes automatic behavior. And you don't know why. You don't even have an honest, intelligent answer that is backed up by objectivity. You just know without a doubt. So that becomes now your belief system. And again, because you believe it, you will hold it to be true, but there is no evidence in it that says it is true. So the difference to me has to be the mindset is the foundation. The mentality is the fruit that comes from that foundation. Until we change the mindset, then the fruit is always going to be toxic.
Okay, I love both of your responses, and I think that when it comes to fear being a mental response, the mental response, it has a mental response. It's yes to both. So it's a biological or psychological reaction that happens. It's just like when I'm driving down the freeway and I see them boys on the side of the road, I automatically take my foot off the gas and say, "God dog it, they done got me doing like," and you look down, see how fast you were going. And it's an automatic mental fear that boom, it overcame me. And I don't want to get no ticket. Now, whereas the mindset, a mindset is developed and can be learned or unlearned. And that's where some of us are stuck, because we've learned some things that we keep in practice because we're used to it. Where if I'm driving in the city at home, I'm straightening up, I'm taking my hat off. It's like, because that fear is there of being stopped, of being this and being that. But now I've unlearned that. I don't have to go through that down here in Texas. For the most part, I'm thinking I'm cool unless I go through certain areas, and then it automatically conjures that up. So it's more than just a psychological thing. It's a mindset thing that happens. It's a reactionary thing. It's something that is non-reactionary, but it's mental. It's mindset, because the mental is reactionary because it's something that happens. The mindset is something that you've developed over time, that you've nurtured, good or bad. You've nurtured this, so you automatically think this way because of. And that's why when people say the system, the system, the system, or the man, the man, the man, you've nurtured that behavior. You may not have any proof at all, but because you've told yourself this thing so much and over so long a period of time, now it becomes true in your head. Hopefully we tackled that and answered that. And I think I've seen another one in the chat. Where is that? How can we help the loss if we first don't meet the need? And sometimes it may be different than what we expect for the community. That's a definitely good question. I think when it comes to helping the loss, first, you can't help the loss while you are lost yourself, or while you are led by your emotions, your feelings. How do you help those who have been through what we haven't, based on the question? On the first question, self-education, which you brothers got anything?
Yeah, I mean, on both, right? How do we help the loss if we don't first meet the need? I think that goes back to the saying that we say a lot. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care, right? But I think a part of that is, and I don't know if this is what you were leading to on the end of that first question, but a part of that, when you said that it may not look like what we think it is, well, why haven't we tried to figure out what the need was before we tried to meet it? And that's that becomes a problem sometimes. So I remember growing up, when we grew up in the hood, a lot of times what we didn't like about our politicians is because we got tired of them telling us what we needed. And we telling them what we need, but they telling us what we needed, which is contradictory to what we were saying. And then it's kind of like an endless cycle. To me, that was the systematic portion that bothered me the most. Because if I'm telling you that I can't breathe, but yet you giving me food, I need air. I got food. I ain't tell you nothing about no food. Give me air, right? Because everybody, when you go downtown in Killeen, when people out there trying to do outreach, everybody got a meal. And when you go talk to some of them brothers, because I used to do the same thing after I got done selling food for the day, I would take the leftover food, box them up, and take them down to the homeless. Some of them would be appreciative, but some of them, we want something else. There's like, hey, do you have any socks? It gets real cold at night, and I don't have no socks. Do you have, like, I didn't know that, but why didn't I care to know? And I understand this might be some pushback, but why not take time to know what the need was? Because then I actually show that I care, versus just showing up saying, hey, take this chicken and shut up. Because I believe some of them feel that way. And so I think that actually bleeds into how do we help those who haven't been through, or who've been through what we haven't, right? I think it's the same way. Get understanding. All I get understanding.
I do like that. I like the all that get an understanding. But I think the assumption that is rooted in this question assumes that I have to have been through what you've been through to have helped you. That's a false narrative. That's not an accurate statement. I don't have to. Okay, so does that mean that people who are single can't give marriage advice? See, that's kind of like what I'm saying. Like, when we have that foundational thought process, then it alone would deny me from even trying to help somebody who's been through something that I haven't been through. I am only a vessel. I'm not the help until I figure that part out. then I will actually move through life thinking that what I do on my own will be helping of someone else. And then I'm going to look for them to appreciate what I do, to glorify what I do in the midst of helping them. And then what's going to end up happening is I'm going to create some dependency in that person because that person is going to look to me for help. So, in this question, how do we help those who have been through what we haven't? By recognizing first and foremost, I don't have to have been through what you've been through to help you, and make sure that I don't be too high minded when I come to you and ask you, how can I help? Some help just means you want me to listen. Sometimes you just want to vent. Sometimes you ain't even in a place to where you're ready to let that thing go because you haven't vented enough. Sometimes people will actively make a decision to stay stuck in the feelings that they have from the thing that they've been through. And when they made that decision, I have to be okay with that. At the end of the day, I am purely a vessel because the help comes from the Lord.
Yes, definitely. And Gaddy, you spoke on the need. I think first and foremost, if we go into any situation attempting to help and we already know in our minds what people need without a conversation, then we're wrong. We're trying to seem as if we're helping versus actually helping. I think a conversation has to be an honest conversation because you can talk and somebody can say, well, I need some food. When what you really need is to shift your thinking and get a job. I had yesterday I was at Lowe's and the guy walked up to me. He's like, hey, man, can I get something, this, that, and other? And I looked at him. He was about my daughter's age, 30s, probably in his early 30s. And I was like, dude, you just told me this same story like 2 years ago, trying to get some money. And I'm like, and I'm looking like, man, you need more than just some money because, and it goes back to how people think. So now I'm thinking, okay, this has to be drugs. This has to be something else other than him needing a place to stay. For the last 2 years, you've been put out your girlfriend's house. You came down here from Chicago, this, that, and like, nah, this can't be. So we need to have an honest conversation. Like, why are you in the boat that you're in? And then we can start to dissect things to where we can say, okay, a job is necessary first and foremost. And no, you don't have a place to stay, but is there a dependency on anything? Because if there is, now I can funnel you to the right people because I can't be the help right here. So now I can funnel you to where help can be received versus me just telling you, well, if you do this and all you got to do is this, because sometimes the help that you may receive may not come through me, but it can be by me through someone else. And we have to realize that honest conversations are necessary when it comes to this, because as Coach was saying, I don't have to have been a drug addict to know that it's necessary for you to relinquish some things to get some assistance for you to come off of this. And then you develop that discipline to where you can stay off of it. I don't have to have gone through it. I don't have to be a married person or a still married. You can be divorced and give advice because it's advice. Because if I've learned a lesson and I'm trying to tell you what said lesson was, you should take heed because there's knowledge and power in that because they went through where you are at times. Now, you can't take everybody's advice because sometimes you got uncles that are scorned. You got aunties that are scorned. And the advice that they may give may not, it may be therapeutic for them, get it off their chest, but it may not be the best advice for you. That's why you got to weigh your sources.
So I wonder, do you believe that a person who needs help know exactly the help that they need?
No. I think they know what they want.
But I think if you listen to them, the context clues are in what they're saying if you let them talk long enough. Because I remember being poor, and I remember being homeless, and all I wanted was some money. So I wasn't poor and I wasn't homeless. But the idea was, hey, maybe I need a job so I can get some money so I'm not poor and I'm not homeless. Like, I didn't equate the job at first. I was a teenager. I was just equating that I'm cold outside and I'm hungry, and if I had some money, I would be neither. So for me, I'm just like, I need money. I need money. I want money. I want money. But the reality was I needed a job. And I
And
ain't been
even
homeless or
so,
hungry since.
if you were to have gotten money, you don't know how to take care of money.
Right.
So now you got money, but you still mentally in the same spot as the person living whatever, however. So it's not that the money you needed some source of structure.
Period.
He like good.
I mean, that's
Right.
the answer. I think too many times we confuse, like, and get, I'm not singling you out, but you made mention of that. People are saying what they need, but then others are providing something other than what they need. Just because a person says what they need, that's what they need in their current mindset. But that's the same mindset that created the space to where they need. So if I meet you at the same level of the need that you claim that you have, it's only a certain amount of time before you put yourself back in that situation to where you need. Come on now, y'all know this. Y'all done got them cousins and uncles or whatever. Hey, nephew, let me hold 20. You know what I'm saying? Y'all seen that?
Yeah.
You know, see him again. Hey, nephew, let me hold something. Yeah.
When you see him again, he drunk again.
Yeah. How come every time I see you, you don't ever ask me how I'm doing? You just let me hold something. So that's, and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm using it as a joke, but I'm serious. Like, there's a lot of people who quote unquote won't help, need help, but then they want to tell you how to help them. No, you're not equipped to tell me how to help you because you need help.
See, and I'm with you. I had a friend. This was a friend, and he every time you seen him, oh man, I need some gas money. I need this and I need that. I gave him a couple. I give him some gas and everything. But every time you see him, he busting fresh. He got this on. He got that on. And you look at the
You
kids.
messy.
You
messy.
I ain't messy. I'm truthful, and you know who it is. And it came a time where I say, dude, we took the same Dave Ramsey course. You got the DVDs. I had to tell him, you got the DVD. I'm still giving you my money, so I'm blocking my blessing. I'm sitting up here giving you, just throwing it into a bag with holes because you're looking at me. You become a bill for me, and I become a crutch for you. So now you have to do something about this. And I had to tell him no. And sometimes it's hard telling your kids no. Sometimes it's hard, but it gets easier. Trust me, because I can do it easily.
But you bring up another problem, right? That I find, and this is where I need help. This is where Tawami needs help, right? Because I know Roland and I know myself because said friend was happy to see Gaddy come along because he bounced off Roland and attached right to Gaddy. But as I survey my life, whether I had a lot of money or a little, I tend to attract people who are looking for someone to leech onto. Because they know no matter if I got a little and you tell me you hurting long enough and you cry hard enough, I'm gonna feel bad and I'm gonna try to help find a way. And that's a biological response for me. Like, I'm not saying that is right, that is a right response, but that's my natural response is how can I help? And sometimes I mess up because I go, how can I fix? And when you try to go and fix and not help, they lose the accountability of help making it right themselves. So when you said that, that's the first thing that come to my mind. That was something that I was just struggling with in my head. Like, why does everybody who try to attach to me randomly always end up wanting me to give everything I got, even when I ain't got it? I tell you I ain't got it, and you keep calling me about it. I ain't got it because you called back. Don't mean I found it.
You answered.
That's the problem. But I know that's the problem. But yet I keep answering.
Yeah, we done. You got anything, Coach? There we go. That second one, build a strong support network. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals who uplift and inspire. This includes family, mentors, community leaders, and organizations that advocate for justice and empowerment. And that's just not people that you want that can do something for you. You need some people. I know either one of these brothers on here, if I call them, they gonna give me the down and dirty. They not gonna tell me what I want to hear. They gonna tell me what they think I need to hear. And those are the people you need in your life, because if I got some yes men in my corner, I'm gonna be falling into a bunch of ditches. I could say, "Hey, coach, I'm looking at this new Escalade, this, that, and other." He like, "Dude, you don't need that. Like, what you need with that? Who is it for? So other people can look at you." And because he gonna have a pragmatic view about it. Say, "Nah, come on, man. That's so you can appease your flesh," and he gonna go there. Or if I come to Gaddy and say something, he gonna go a certain way. And you need people in your life like this. And as a community, I think sometimes we think that we have to think the same, that they got to think just like me. No, I just need somebody that's trying to get where I'm trying to go. They're trying to get there too. And if their structure is the same, we have the same blueprint, they may see it a different way than I see it. And that's where the help comes in. Because now I can say, okay, I didn't see it like that. And they can give their rendition.
I would say I'm agreeing with this statement. One thing I would add, though, because inspire and uplift, it does not give way to the entire spectrum of reality. If you have a mentality to where only thing you want to do is hear the kindness and give the positive affirmations and make you feel good about who you are, then me and you ain't in the same community. Just gonna put it like this right here. If the same mouth that uplift and inspire can't edify, we ain't in the same community.
Yeah.
So I think that's a thing, especially when it comes down to, having being around like-minded individuals. Like-minded individuals, not just like-minded, it's of what mindset these individuals have that drives the connection. And then when you start looking at mentors and things of that nature, like mentors don't tell you what you want to hear, they tell you what you need to hear. They push you outside of your comfort zone. They so forth and so on. So based upon what you're saying, it's like not you, but I'm saying based upon what you're saying you want in your life, then that becomes the thing that drives the instructions. That becomes the thing that drives the feedback loop. That becomes the thing that drives it drives the information that you receive from people in the community. Like, I know you guys say that, we don't have to think alike. I think that's virtually impossible to think like somebody else, if I'm just being completely transparent. So I don't even think that is a notion that warrants discussion, thinking alike. However, there should be certain aspects of cognition that exists within the community that is similar. If those aspects of cognition don't exist in the community that are similar, then we're not like-minded.
Right.
I'll say that part again. If those aspects of cognition don't exist, then we're not like-minded, period. So when you say, well, I think differently, yeah, that sounds great, but no, you think just like everybody else. There is a metric to thinking. What you think might be differently, but how you think is not. So I think when it comes down to the aspect of building a strong support network, the need or the desire to be unique and individual and lean on those phrases and terms that people have gave us to say over the years. No two people are alike. Like, you're different than everybody else. Like, all this individually focused information that has been poured into us for years, and then that becomes the thing that we use going forward. It tears away at the possibility of community, ensuring that community does not exist. We're not talking neighborhoods. We're not talking about living in close proximity. We're talking about like-minded people who come together for a common cause and purpose for the sake of thriving within the space of in the community. Not because my job helped me with, not because my education did so. No, because we empower, uplift, and edify each other.
I think the direction both of those comments went, I can't really do too much justice to. So I'm a flip the the script just a little bit, not really too much, because I want to stay where Roland went a little bit when he talked about having a yes man, because a lot of people are looking. A lot of people do not believe they need mentors, especially young people. Young people feel like I have the answer. I just need you to give me what I need to get to the answer. So you keep giving me money till I get to the answer. No, that's not going to happen, because now you're a liability to me until you figure it out. That's not you being community. That's you being selfish. But I don't disagree with having a yes man sometimes, but you have to earn it. And here's why I say that, right? I trust I trust Coach. I'm gonna say it like this. Let's say I trust Coach to build a platform that's going to garnish 1 million followers one day. But Coach keep coming up with a different platform. And the platform ain't gone past 100,000 yet, but you want me to believe 1 million is coming. But because I know his vision, because I spent time listening to him, he's proven himself in a way that only a friend can know, right? And so when he says, "Hey, I'm about to do this, you down? I got you." Yeah. But that's and when he tries something different, "Hey, I'm gonna tweak it this way. Can you help me out with this?" I got you. And so I think sometimes, and it's not, and I'm using the term yes man lightly, but sometimes we need that person. It may sound that may look like a yes man, but they just got my back, right? But I think that's something that you have to prove yourself to that friend before you can get that yes man, because I'm not just going to keep giving you and you're not doing better with it. You're not, you don't have no direction with it. Coach got direction. Roland hit me up one time, and because I could do it. Roland fussing me out later. Roland hit me up one time. He said, and he ain't gonna fuss me out, but he said, "Hey, I think we should do this, because as a community, if we do this with our finances, things, we can help each other out." And I said, "You know what? Let's do it." He put down, I put down. We went for it, right? We saw some kickback early, and it didn't go the long haul like we hoped it would. But okay, it is what it is. He looked at me and said, "Hey man, you ever thought about doing this?" I'm looking into this. I said, "Well, what does it take to get?" Because I know that Roland has direction. He's not a waster of money, and so I'm going to have his back until he strikes gold. Because I know when he strikes gold, he got Gaddy's back. I know when Coach gets that 1 million followers, he's not gonna say, "All right, you ain't smart enough no more. Get off my platform." Right? Because and he might give me another job. Let me let me sing his intro. Ooh yeah, man. Hearts and man. I'm joking, but we talk bad about the yes man, but I just wanted to put a different spin on that. But I know their mind. I know I may not know their vision as well as they know their vision, but I know they have vision and I trust it. So if I can jump in and help them as they move forward, I'm gonna try.
See, but Gary, what you're saying, I don't think that's a yes man being a good thing. I think you know who you're dealing with. They aren't yes men, but they are encouragers to help you go where you're trying to go. Because if I come to you and I say something that sounds like some type of whatever, don't believe me. And especially if I can't back it up, I got to be able to back it up with what we've agreed to as our bond. And our bond is the word. So if where I'm going ain't leading you through that, then where I'm going has to deal with some superficial mess. And you know how I am with money. And that's going to lead me into our number 3. Number 3, turn adversity. Oh, I'm messing that up. Adversity into motivation. Instead of allowing fear to paralyze, use challenges as motivation to push forward. Stories of triumph from figures like Malcolm X, Maya Angelou, and contemporary leaders can serve as inspiration. You can use people as inspiration, but never try to use them as the goal. They will never be the goal. Like I was watching something and the dude, they kept asking me, what you want in a wife? Well, I want Michelle Obama. Well, you don't know Michelle Obama from a hill of beans. You just know what you see. You just know how she projects her image, but you don't necessarily know who she is and what she thinks. You know the image that she portrays on stage and interviews and such. So if I'm looking at you guys and I'm saying, okay, turn adversity into motivation, a motivation for me to never be broke. I know what it's like to have a 300 or something credit score. Never again, ain't going there. That's why I tell people, that's why people think, oh, you cold-hearted, you callous, you won't even let sign for this. I'm not putting on my name on anything where I can't pay for it or I don't want to pay for it. I'm not doing that. I'm going to encourage you to get your name up to where you don't need someone else. And that's just one of those things where it's a motivation for me to manage my money well, to manage my finances to a point to where I don't have to go backwards.
I don't know why I can't find this unmute button today. Oh man. So you know, when we talk about the like-mindedness, I think it comes from it also bleeds into finding our inspiration and our mentors, right? Because and on a different level, right? Ro and Coach, and I'm only going to use my brothers because they're up here with me. But me, Coach, and Ro may be like-minded in what the scripture says, but they may not be called to do the thing that I'm called to do. So if I'm called to build railroads, and I'm just using for per se, and Coach is is called to do something different, like to fly helicopters. I don't know if I want to get him as my mentor. Well, to jump out of him, how about that? I don't know if I want to use him as my mentor on learning how to build railroads. But because we believe community looks the same, he may be a good support system. He may be good to talk to me about my money, how to do with my money, or what to do with it. But and that goes back into the whole apprenticeship program. I think we've lost sight a little bit of it. You don't believe in apprenticeship? My bad. I
was responding to something somebody said in the chat. My bad.
Coach ain't doing none of that jumping out of helicopters and stuff.
Man, a helicopter ain't gonna hurt you. It's the planes I got a problem with. But and I know you ain't finna jump out either.
Is it in the air? Jumping.
I know that's right. but I think sometimes we get off focus because this person is a good mind, and because this person is a good speaker, don't mean that they're a good mentor for me. But motivation, I don't have. I think you can get motivation from anywhere if you listen close enough. But I don't know. This just made me double back a little bit to the mentorship, and so I just wanted to hit that. Like, I think we need to do a better job sometimes with finding someone that is on the path to where I'm called to do. But I think that comes with understanding who you are and who you called to be as well, or what the Father's calling you to do, because we're not all called to do the same thing. The foot can't teach the hand how to clap.
Looking at this, it reminds me of how much I dislike Black History Month. I'm just gonna start off with that, because we always talking about somebody from the past. I ain't never seen them write a line of code in my life. So how can they be inspiration for somebody who write code? Like, they can't be your inspiration right now. You can, like I said before, you can look in the past and you can learn from the past. That is all. But we keep trying to bring the past into the present, like Malcolm X, Maya Angelou, Martin Luther King Jr., George Washington Carver. We appreciate them, greatly appreciate them. but let's learn from the past and bring the learning to the future. Leave them in the past where they've done what they need to do. Learn from it and apply what you learned from them to the modern day time. That's the thing. It's just like when you look at the things you've been through in the past. If I keep bringing it up to modern day time, is that not evidence that I have not been delivered from that thing? So I think a lot of this continues to perpetuate fear. It perpetuates a lot of the things that they've been through. Look at how many times they keep playing the stories over and over again, showing what they've been through, so forth and so on. So I'm using that to kind of move forward in this because the initial thoughts in the statement is all about using adversity to turn it into motivation, right? So now, if I take the lessons that I learned from their life and apply it in real time, especially after going through adversity, now that allows me to gain motivation because there was a principle in something that they did that still works today. Principles work regardless of what mode of time you look at it in. It's the principle that works. I'm not talking about Maya Angelou. I'm not talking about Malcolm X. I'm not talking about none of them folk back then. Because at the end of the day, appreciate what they did. They went before us and they've done these things and we got certain rights. But by that same token, there's really only one person I really want to talk about. And that's the person that we only should be talking about. Because at the end of the day, that's where that's where all of the principles come from that we should be using today. So at the end of the day, going back to it again, turning adversity into motivation, or more so important inspiration, because motivation is temporary. I should become inspired based upon something that is deep within me, which requires me to go through adversity. It's a guarantee. It's going to happen, right? Expect it. It's going to happen. Now, what are you going to do when adversity shows up? Because I should be geared up. I should be stored up so that when adversity hits, I now know what to do. I now know who to call on. We have a predetermined plan on executing in the midst of adversity so that once we get through adversity, now that becomes a blueprint. I don't want to share my story with you because at the end of the day, there might be a possibility you say, oh man, coach is so awesome. Coach is great. Coach been through this. Coach did this, and pay attention because you heard it. You've been hearing it constantly, right? Not about coach stuff. Coach has done this. Coach is an awesome person. Coach is amazing. Coach is this. Coach is that. Coach is this. And so then I ask you a question. Well, why is coach so amazing? Because you don't know all that coach has been through. Newsflash. Everybody has been through something. Doesn't that mean that everybody's amazing? So let's stop glorifying people, learn from people, put the learning in real time. And when we put the learning in real time, then now what you'll find is that there was a principle in the thing that you learn, and hopefully you know the principle, so it's the principle that you're applying.
It sounds like, now, Coach, we was having a good bromance, and you went and messed it up, man.
I did it intentionally, by the way.
Yeah, you went and messed it up because now I'm not a Black history person. I'm an all around history. I ain't even Black, but I'm all year. But when it comes to learning from people, I don't care whether it's Ezekiel, Isaiah, Hezekiah, Nehemiah, whomever it is, or authors or people that came before us that have done something. There's something that I can learn from. See, it's like you dismiss them, then you turn around and say, but learn the principles of this, that, and the other. So I'm like, okay, I see how he, kind of slid that in.
I don't see that as dismissing. I said, like what you just said was exactly the same thing I said.
But you dismissed them in the beginning.
No.
Because you made it seem like you couldn't take anything that they added no value for now.
I said they can't be inspiration to me now. They can't be. The person can't be inspiration. But the principle that they use to overcome adversity can be applied today. That's what I said.
Separate, Coach.
Yeah, sure you can.
No.
See, but okay, so that is the foundational belief that I was talking about. When I say I can't separate it from the person, then I'm missing the point. Because I think it's the person that was great. It wasn't the person that was great. It was them learning something outside of what everybody knew in that particular point in time. Therefore, they elevated themselves using said principles to, or, because we ain't going to act like it ain't happened, It was the system that moved them to for the sake of what they wanted later.
Certain people were puppeted, yes. But
Right.
when we're talking about people that, I ain't talking about change that was orchestrated. I'm talking about you've read, you've seen it on whatever, and these people actually had influence and how they lived, how they moved. And now you're like, okay, I can take that as inspiration, but I can never separate it from the person.
That's not accurate.
Because if I get water from here to there, it's still water being moved from here to there. Whatever. Okay, we're not even gonna get on that.
So real quick, if I don't separate it from the person, am I not now glorifying the person every time I bring them up?
You don't have to glorify the person.
That wasn't my question.
No.
Now you're moving. I'm saying,
No.
if I don't separate it from the person, am I not now glorifying the person every time I am talking about this person, this person, this person, this person, just like we do every year during that time of year?
No.
I don't think it's a yes or no. I think it can.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah, because we know the people. But Malcolm X said, well, just like Maya Angelou said, people do it today with Beyonce. Oh, sure. What Beyonce said, like, I don't care what Beyonce said. I don't care what nobody. Right. So I think it can. Yeah. But I think it's kind of like when people quote from the thing that inspired them to be where they are now. Well, I remember when this was said by such and such and such, but the focus is on what they said, not necessarily on them. I know not Beyonce, right? This is
the same thing that I'm saying.
You're saying that the glory will start to can.
Right. When you keep bringing the person, when you keep bringing the person forward in time.
Well, we see that every day, like you said, right?
I ain't talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm saying if we keep doing it, right? You got to learn to separate. That's why I say this is what I was talking about previously about history. We keep bringing up what this person did back then. And it's not like we don't appreciate what they did back then, but what is the lesson that I need to learn right now? And that's why I started off by saying Malcolm X never wrote one line of code. So we're bringing somebody, and you got to realize past presented different challenges than what's going to be presented now. So it has to be the principle that is brought forward.
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay.
Yeah. We there with that. Yeah. Because I don't think because I have to know when it comes to people, however many books you read and whatever,
sure,
you can, whomever you're following, whether it's Steve Jobs about tech and all these things, Bill Gates about finance and so forth and so on. It is the principles, but you can't separate it from the individual because they are the ones who brought it. Now you can separate certain things because I can separate. You can say, well, this person ain't this, but then you look at how they move and the principles that, like, people get mad.
So I got a question. So do we not at that point becomes a community of Bill Gates or the community of Steve Jobs or the community of Malcolm X? I'm just saying, because eventually, if we keep talking about those people, everybody in the community talks about those people.
I think what you're doing is implying that there's a constant focus on them and what they did. Simply,
No. I'm talking about. So again, going back to what we keep doing every year, not us, but what we see every year. The same people, like you said, those 5, right? The same people that keep showing up every year. And so we believe, ideally, we can't separate the principles that they use to overcome into today. But it's not true. It's the principle that goes through time, not the person.
Right. But I think that's a misinformation also. That's
right. Sure. We can tell their stories, and I do believe in that, but that's just for like the younger generation to learn who they were. But in the midst of that conversation, you say, no, we're not bringing them forward. These are the things that you should learn from them so that they can be applied today. Then I go and show them exactly what a principle is written so they understand that they were not the author of the principle. Man don't write principle.
I have zero problem with what you're saying, but then when you take it, like if you're talking about code, ain't no principles in coding when it comes to scripture. Ain't no principles there.
Okay, so I never researched whether or not there's a code
Right.
principle in there.
So what I'm saying,
I don't even know
it
how to
has
code. I just want to use that.
Right. So that's why I'm saying when you now you can say, okay, dedication, discipline, and all these things. Yeah, we get where that's coming from. And so I definitely don't want to get sidetracked because I'm in agreement with you on the principles being what's moved forward. Go ahead.
Okay. And I don't want this to be confusing for some, but because of the reference I'm going to make, but I hope I don't muddy the waters back up if it got a little clear. But all of us were non-commissioned officers, right? There's this thing that non-commissioned officers can do to set themselves apart, and it's called becoming a member of the Audie Murphy Club, right? Sets you apart in the sense of prestige or whatever the case may be, right? Now, anybody with Google know that Audie Murphy ain't the guy I want to be like, because the person has done some things. The person got a record, a track record, but the level of recognition that he's received in the military, right? So the Audie Murphy Club, we use his name every time someone gets indicted into it, but it's simply a club of excellence, right? You were recognized as this level of NCO. You were brought forth, you studied, and you displayed what you need to display. Now you are part of the Audie Murphy Club. When I look at that, I don't see, because we use his name and his likeness, that we're glorifying Audie Murphy. Because if so, are we saying that we're also, by doing so, by getting the medallion, we're now honoring the stuff that he's done in life that wasn't so great?
Let's talk about who Audie Murphy was after this.
That's
why I just looked at it.
I did that intentionally.
With what you're saying right now, I would agree with Coach on this one.
You're proving my point.
Right. But with this one, because people don't, after that, they don't research. They don't know. So all they know is, this, and he's this upstanding person. And that's why we have shows in movies that will depict certain leaders as whoremongers, certain leaders as womanizers, certain leaders, and show the true essence of the being, because they say, we got to know the whole being. And so I understand the knowing the whole being. That's why the principle is what lasts, and I'm cool with that. And we're going to roll on to the next one.
Telling you, man, I'm sorry. My bad.
Oh, no, I love it, man, because I love us having the dialogue like this. I think sometimes the people that don't understand may not, but I love it. Invest in personal and economic growth, financial independence, and self-sufficiency. Reduce dependency on systems that may not serve you. Learning skills, entrepreneurship, and home ownership are key ways to create security and freedom.
Court's adjourned. You know why I say that? Because financial independence, I don't want to say self-sufficiency, but sufficiency rooted in our given identity from the creator, skills, entrepreneurship, home ownership, all rooted in principles. Every last one of them. Course adjourned.
For this.
No, I'm joking, man.
I know.
The most important thing, the most important thing to me in this question is invest. Because that's where we miss that principle. The law of sacrifice will always prove itself to be true in your life. But what we end up doing is we don't invest in the things that are geared, that are positioned to move us in the direction that we really are supposed to go. We invest in the thing that focuses on the thing that the world taught us. So we want to be smart, so we focus on the things that make us smart. We want to look good, so we focus on the things that make it look good. We want other people to like us, so we focus on the things that, the world show us that people like, and we invest in those things. But at the end of the day, if we really stop and take a step back and look at how much money we just take and set on fire based upon investing in those things that are not geared to move the needle any closer in the direction of your favor. then we got to realize that there is an investment. There's a cost that we're going. And please don't put his name in. I know how y'all. I use that word, and I know people are triggered by it. Please don't put his name in the chat. There is a cost associated to the direction that you want to go. That's why I keep telling people, use your job to fund your future, right? Don't be too invested in your job, because as you're seeing right now, your job, if the chips are down, like, hey, good person, but I'm sorry, this is where we are right now. So we have to invest in the tomorrow that we're expecting and believing is supposed to come true according to what he said. Not what the world said, not what the system said, not what the education system has taught me. And we got to also go on, and I keep going back to this because this is the thing. We got to root out those things that are buried in our subconscious that are driving us to do the things that are unfruitful to this community that we say that we belong to. That's the thing. That's why I keep saying, like, when we have a mindset that does not necessarily do, but say that we do, but this is where we are. We're not part of the community. We're just saying that, and then we're behaving as such that goes against what we're saying. But is not behavior the evidence of what you really and truly do believe? And if that is the case, then how do you restructure behavior? By changing what you believe, which means you got to change what you read, you got to change what you talk about, so forth and so on, and invest in that thing. Because at the end of the day, no one, and I'm just using people at this point, no one really believes anybody who sacrifices nothing but expects everything. I said it again and again. I'm gonna go back to what you said. You said, if coach come to me and I'm just using that example, and he get 1 million followers and blah, 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 blah. No, I don't want you to say yes just because. I want you to be in there working with me so we can get 1 million followers. That's how it should be. That's what community is, right? Just saying yes and just sitting back and waiting on coach to get 1 million followers, that's not a community. That's a wagon. I'm gonna say it again. That's not a community. That's a wagon, and it becomes weight at a certain point. So when we work together, based upon the conversation that we had in the beginning, when I said, "Hey, man, I want to run this by you. What you think?" And then going back to what you said and what everybody was saying in the chat, not just saying yes, but now we're dialoguing about the idea that I pitch. And then now it's like you say, "Well, what about? Have you thought about this?" You know what? I did not think about that. Yeah, let's do that. Well, hey, let's call our brother Roland up because I think he might have some good ideas if that's okay with you. Sure, let's call him up. So now we're on the phone 3-way talking, planning, and conceptualizing what the future is looking like. Then we move forward to put that plan into action. That is the very definition of the law of sacrifice. So now when the 1 million show up, it's like we can take a step back and say, man, look at what he allowed us to do just simply by collaborating and working together on one common cause, one common purpose, with a unified front, working together for a particular outcome. That's what we should be investing in. But we won't do that because we believe that resources are finite, and I got to get mine.
Coach talked so good, I forgot I had to turn. My bad. My bad. Oh man. When we start talking about investing, I love the idea of personal investment, right? Personal economics, right? I know it was economic growth, all right, and invest in personal. But I am slightly different. I look at financial independency as a community thing, as a collaborative thing. Yes, in the sense of what Coach is talking about, but also in the sense of I might have and you what you might not have. So because I have, you have it, and vice versa. To me, that's independency. Because I think when I think of the word independency, I think of all the people that I believe fall into the same category in which Coach was just talking about, whereas, well, I got to get mine. And at some point, I have to get myself to a place to where I can help before I try to help everybody, right? I get that, right? But that's why I think when he talks about the love of money being the root of evil, because and for me, that always ties to when he says that it's easier for a camel to enter into the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into the kingdom, because the rich has to ignore those who are around them to get rich at some level, at some point, right? But if we got rich, if we thought about each other and we got wealthy, we gained financial independency on each other, to me, that is the essence of biblical principles. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and then love your neighbor as you love yourself. And the second is as unto the first, right? So I think of those things, and I go, well, it ain't the money, it's the love of the money. It's the concept of I got to get mine, even if I don't have to step on you to get mine, but I forget, I ignore you so I can get mine. The whole time you need, now I have you in a position to where you feel like you have to come to me because I got it all. And in order for you to get your breadcrumbs, you got to come sit at my table. So I'm the dog and you the master, instead of never mind. But so I look at it in that aspect. And so I do believe in investing in yourself, but I do believe that there's a collective way of economic freedom as well. So I just want to put that out there.
I think when we're looking at investing, sometimes I think that my investing always has to do with what I'm gaining. Sometimes I can gain by investing in you, whether it's time. And I think we always go monetarily. We think about the money. Oh, how much can we get from such and such? And that's where we go wrong in the church, because we go to communities and knock on doors where they look well-to-do so that they can come and bless us on Sunday morning and give $40,000 after we lock the door. No, I'm just joking. I had to throw that last one. But when it comes to investing personal and economic growth, personal growth sometimes is spending time with people who have sound mind and can help you gain knowledge, because you may be stuck on stupid. You may still be in a place or a position to where you're thinking that everything is run from what dollars you have. But if you invest in learning people, if you invest in learning patterns, if you invest in learning certain things about how to get what you need, you'll realize that it's not the money that I need. It may be the people. It may be the relationships. There may be a source of growth that may catapult me further in life than that just said something to me versus someone giving me $1 million. Because you can just get $1 million worth of gain and actually make it in life. So I think that when it comes to the financial independence and self-sufficiency, I think self-sufficiency for me, my self-sufficiency is never about self. It's about him. And him instill what he instills in me. And I'd never be the one that goes around and say, well, this says and the book says and yada, yada, yada. I think that what you do is you show how your life says everything, the patterns, as the, not pattern, but as Coach was saying. But when you show through your life how this all works out, then you become the teacher, because that's what we need more of. We need more teachers that show, not, I ain't gonna show you how to make this. I'm gonna show you my life. And because I can tell you something. That's why when it comes to children and everything, like if I was told them a word and they say, okay, what it mean? I say, look it up. Because I'm teaching you that you'll learn better when you do the work, when you got to put some work ethic in and actually learn it for yourself, other than me just giving it to you. So I think that the personal and economic growth, monetary is a gain, but it's not the gain of gain. So I think that we need to look at how we can grow people as well as grow ourselves in knowledge and all those things that the Most High has told us to become, told us to be. When you see yourself and you have a snappy attitude, you have a bad disposition about you, bad behavior, you can go to the book and it can tell you how to rectify that situation. But you can also say, well, if I had what I needed, no, you can go to the book and get what you need. And where you may think you need that extra income, that extra money, it may not be that what you need, because you need a source of peace in your life first and foremost, so that you will look and see where you are. It ain't that bad. It may be bad to where society says you are, but when it comes to the grand scheme of things, it's not too far off. You just may need some tweaks of the people that you hang around so that you can become the person that he's created you to be. Number 5, advocate and take action. Change happens when people take action, whether through voting, community activism, coach, you don't like that, but it's there, or career leadership. Standing up for change strengthens both personal and collective futures. I threw the ball up. Y'all got to jump.
Nah, yeah, it's on me. So now when it talks about voting, for me, I think too many of us are focused on our presidential elections. You know, I know it's the American thing to do to vote for our president, but it's also the American thing to do to vote for our aldermen and our senators and our mayors. And, you know, our local politicians are the ones who directly affect what happens right here in this city, this county, this state, or this district, this state. You know, I just looked down at my phone and saw a notification saying, you know, Tarrant County is giving away thousands of dozens of eggs. Right? The county made that decision. Someone voted that person in who sees that these people in this small county are paying $11 for eggs and decided to give emergency relief. Now, I get it. It's eggs. You know, you might be able to afford your $9 to $12 eggs, but I look at that. That was directly affected by local politicians, and so President Trump, or you know, as people like to say, or first.
I think Trump pulled a plug on him.
He said it too many times. He snatched him off, didn't he? He said, he put him like Eddie, have a smile and a Coke and a smile.
Not only did he say Trump turned him off, he said freeze him right there. I want his face to stay right there the whole time. Yes, I don't have an issue against activism, right? I believe in activism as long as we're activating for the right thing, with a clear-cut end goal in mind, and it is for the sake of the people in the community. I think by virtue, if you actually read and understand what the word is saying, it's very difficult not to get to the point of being an activist, right? Because again, you help those who can't help themselves. I think I'm not going to touch the first one because I kind of talked about that, earlier. I think the notion of taking action kind of goes back to what I was saying previously. When we get the notion of community, then the community in its entirety can take action. There's strength in numbers when we understand that. Not only is it strength in numbers, but it's strength in purpose first, then strength in numbers. And when we move, Gabby said he just lost internet. I told y'all. So when we move on one accord in the direction of wanting to make change happen, then change can actually be made. We have to learn certain things, though. We got to learn the art of communicating. We got to learn the art of negotiating. We got to learn like doing the right thing for the sake of advancement. We may not necessarily get from here all the way to there on the first go round, but if we can collectively move ourselves 10 steps closer, that is growth. And so the idea is that we're growing in the direction that we're moving. Maybe next year we see about doing 10 more steps. So I think when we look at strengthening collective future, I must first, kind of going back to what we said in the beginning, I must first have the mindset that can see a future worth fighting for, right? Not just a mindset that says, oh, well, I'm good. Life is good. I got my own little piece here. I don't need to do anything else. Once we move outside of that mentality, which I believe is selfish in nature, then we'll realize that I got to pour in to this vessel so I can now get to the point of giving from the overflow. Too many times we give from our cup, right? We pour from the cup. Stop pouring from the cup. Pour from let the overflow be the thing that blesses people, and you keep your cup full. Like keep your cup full with the word, what he says, how he says, so forth and so on, so that when you go forth in these groups that are moving for change, when people ask you questions, you now have something of value to say.
I love it. Couldn't have said it any better. And I think that when it comes to being an advocate, I think if you've been on here longer than 2 minutes, you all should know that at the end of the day, we're all advocates for the scriptures. We're all advocates for the Most High. So we may have thoughts, we may have conversations about whatever it is, but at the end of the day, it's his word over our word. It's how he sees it and his principles that supersede everything else. So I love that we actually bring topics to where not just the chat has to think about it, but us up here, we have to think about it, because when it comes to advocating and taking action means that I have to do something. Like whether you say it's a verb and all that other stuff and try to be cute, I have to take action in my life first and foremost, so that I can make sure that, as Coach was saying, that I'm full. Because if I'm trying to pour from an empty vessel, I'm no good to anyone else. So I have to make sure that I'm right and in right standing first and foremost, so that we can move forward together. Because if I'm being pulled in the wagon, yet I have all my capabilities, then I am less than what I'm professing to be. And sometimes I'm pointing at me, have to look in the mirror and say, man, am I pulling my load? Am I doing my part to what I agreed upon? So that's where we all have to be when you're in a community. You're in a community not just to receive. You're in a community, meaning that you add value as well as take value. So it's a valuable community, and not just a community where you just come and get handouts. That's called what they do on Saturday mornings at churches. They give out things and you just come and take, but you don't necessarily give in return. This is a community, and it's a cycle. It's cyclical in nature, and it should be, because we strengthen one another. And just like we depend on the chat depends on us. And we have some people that's going to come and say, hey, look this up. And hey, what about this? And we're going to look into it. And at the end of the day, we say, man, let's see how we can all move forward together. So I'm glad you came up with yours. And for our final thoughts, Coach, it's just you and me. You can take this first round, and then I'll just close it out.
I enjoy this conversation. I think it's important. I think it's something that we have to consider, because a lot of times we look at fear from an individualistic, self-centered perspective. But if what I am fearing is preventing me from moving forward and doing anything positive or doing something in the direction in which I want to go, then look at what it's doing in the future. It's delaying me from helping the people that I could be helping. So staying in the fear that I'm currently holding on to is preventing me to help other people, preventing me from being a part of the community so that we as a community can move forward and help people. So I think that's the thing. So when we look at these 5 steps to transform fear into fuel, rewire courage, and live, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Your fear, the level of fears that you exist, living in your comfort zone, is denying you and preventing you from the opportunity of living the way that we're supposed to be living according to his word, according to his divine design, as he instructed us to do in his word. I can't sit on my laurels and just say, oh, I've been in the Army for 24 years. I got this, I got that, I got this, and then just sit back and embrace it and all that other great stuff. That's not what he said. At the end of the day, you learn some things in the Army. You're learned some things since you've been out and so forth and so on. How are you using those gifts to help somebody else? How are you moving forward to help somebody else, move their life out of their comfort zone? And I think that's what it is. We have to get to the point to where we're constantly pushing the limits of our comfort zone. If we do not do that, then we're going to struggle. And then what ends up happening is that we will live a life that is unfulfilled because we had zero impact on anybody moving forward, and they will never get to the point of receiving the blessing that they were supposed to receive from you. Hey, Crystal.
He threw a shout out in there too. I love it. 5 steps to transform fear into fuel for a brighter future. I'm not going to stretch the hour any longer. We appreciate you for coming. Mine would just be those steps. 1, self-education and awareness. And remember, each one of these starts with you in him and ends with you in community in him. So self-education and awareness, build a strong support network, turn adversity into motivation, invest in personal and economic growth, advocate, and take action. That's all I got. That's it. I love it. Now, I don't know if anything going on tomorrow?
No, I got I'm meeting with Garfield tomorrow and do some recording for Coach's Corner. So that's about it. Yeah. I think, listen, I want to say this. If you would regard me, sir, I want to say, listen, we greatly appreciate you guys, all of you in the chat. I mean, I was looking at what you guys were putting in the chat. I've been overworked tonight because Crystal left me high and dry. No, I'm joking. But no, I was looking at what you guys were saying in the chat, and you guys were literally adding value and putting some great information in there. I do apologize. We didn't get a chance to bring everything you guys said up to the panel. But again, just know that you were value added, each and every one of you, and we greatly appreciate you.
And Sunday brunch is on Gaddy's, pending, I guess, his internet situation.
Yeah, but keep that man out your mouth. Keep that man name out your mouth. I told y'all.
But other than that, love it. Y'all have a good night.